with South Carolina's second in the nation unemployment rate being about 11.5% for the period ending April, we took a piece of legislation over that we believe would help address the unemployment issue by matching people to jobs and jobs to people. Kind of got caught up in both the House and the Senate a little bit and didn't move because of political ramifications between the governor and the leadership. So what's the chances of that bill next year getting back on track, Darrell, you think?
Well, the bill you're referencing, 3442 in the House and 391 in the Senate, both had a lot of hearings in both bodies. Obviously, we're dealing with deficits in the unemployment trust fund that could reach as high as $1 billion by the end of this year. So we got to do something. Nothing happened this year, which is unfortunate. Got caught up, as you said, in some politics in both the House and the Senate. But as we move into next year, we're hopeful that the House and Senate will both schedule hearings to really hunker down and look at the problems we have in the workforce sector and also in the trust fund balances that businesses are ultimately going to have to pay back. We're hopeful that as this moves into next year, obviously it's going to be $1.5 billion, $2 billion issue in the state with rising unemployment, and we're going to have to do something next year when we get back in January.
Well, all these things happening or not happening was really kind of attributable to the whole budget process that we have. And I think one thing that can be said was that the leadership of both the House and the Senate kind of stepped up and made the cuts in government spending and did not look to businesses or individuals to pick up that additional burden. So our kudos to the leadership. Then moving on from there, kind of spending limitations and kind of took care of itself this year, but we didn't get anything for the future, Darrell, as far as spending caps and all. Can you talk about what happened to those pieces of legislation in the process?
Well, you hit the nail on the head. The legislature didn't do anything to hurt business this year, which was the biggest plus of the whole session. Unfortunately, there was other states that did a number of things, like Georgia, that had a bunch of tax credits and tax incentives to help create jobs in those states. So we may have drifted behind a little bit, but as you referenced, the state had to cut over $1 billion from the budget process this year. So in essence, they had a spending cap. We're continuing to push a state constitutional amendment to limit spending and to create a budget stabilization fund that would help smooth out the budget process so you wouldn't see these peaks and valleys. But I think as the pressure continues to build on the budget, the legislature, both the House and the Senate, are going to have to come back and look at some sort of spending reform as they get into next year.
Well, we brought you most of the issues that we addressed or were addressed by the General Assembly. Left a lot on the table, but thank goodness it's a 2-year session. We'll have a chance to get back in there next year and get many of these pieces of legislation back on track and get passed. So thanks for joining us this week. Next week we'll have another individual, another business person, another public policy maker in this state to join us to talk about an issue that's important to the business community. Thank you for joining us.